बोलो बोलो बोलो। We'll say the introductory shlokas. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. The remaining shlokas we can say together. Narayanam namaskritya naram cheva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudire nashtaraya swabhadresu nityam bhavarvisevaya bhagavate ramashloke bhakti bhavati naistiki mukham karoti vacham angum lambhaite girim yat kripatamam vande Shri Guru Dinataram Paramanandamaharam Jayatam Suto Pando Mama Mandamati Gati Matsavasya Padam Rojo Shri Shri Radha Namo Divyat Vrindaranyadalpadurmadan Shrimat Ratnagara Simhasanastam Shrimad Radha Shriravindade Presalini Sevya Namaskami Shrimad Rasarasarambi Vamsi Vata Tata Sitaha Karsanvenam Swami Gopi Gopinatha Shri Anandam Vito Dujo Kanagavadito Sankirtane Kitaro Amritaksho Vishwamharo Yudhagaro Yudhagarmapalo Vande Jagatpriyakaro Karunayavtaro Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Sadi Gaura Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare We will start with Canto 6, Chapter 7, verses 29 and 30 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So I'll say the shlokas and then you can repeat after me. Acharyo Brahmano Murti Pita Murti Prajapate Bhatra Marutpate Murti Mata Shakshashite Stanu Dayaya Bhagini Murti Dharmasyatma hi Swayam Dharmasya Atmati hi Swayam Agnerabhyagato Murti Translation: the Acharya, the spiritual master who teaches all Vedic knowledge and gives initiation by offering the sacred thread, is the personification of the Vedas. Similarly, a father personifies Lord Brahma, a brother, King Indra, a mother, the planet Earth, and a sister, Mercy. A guest personifies religious principles. An invited guest personifies the demigod Agni, and all living entities personify Vishnu, the Supreme Lord. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. According to the moral instructions of Chanakya Pandit, Atmavat Sarva Bhuteshu, one should observe all living entities to be on the same level as oneself. This means that no one should be neglected as inferior. Because Paramatma is seated in everyone's body, everyone should be respected as a temple of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This verse describes the different ways one should respect a guru, a father, a brother, a sister, a guest, and so on. So today is the most auspicious advent of Gita Jayanti. The Mahabharata is classified technically as an itihas. Different scriptures have been classified into different categories. You have the Vedas, you have the Vedanta Sutras, you have the Upanishads, 108 Upanishads are there. Then you have the Puranas, and then you have Itihas. The Vedanta Sutras are Vedas give, you can say, a general structure of knowledge. But as time goes on, knowledge always needs to be refined for the sake of people, so that people can understand that knowledge. The knowledge in itself is complete, but people don't understand that knowledge very deeply. I believe there is someone called Danavir Goswami who has written extensively and corroborated the way in which scientists believe that creation is done, and the way in which the Vedas have described creation. So if you look at how this description has been done, it's very accurate to how science has said that the Big Bang Theory works, and how the Vedas have described them. What the scientists have not been able to explain is what originated the Big Bang. What initiated the elements to come together and then produce many things. They don't know the cause of it, but they know that something happened which caused elements to fuse together and then therefore erupt a mass of so many different elements. And so when we look at the descriptions given in the Vedas, especially the Rig Veda, Danavir Goswami has managed to corroborate these things very accurately. But the problem is, when you just read the descriptions of the Vedas, you may not understand. For example, it's mentioned in certain scriptures that this world is like an upside down rabbit. And you can't see it initially. But then suddenly when you turn the map of Africa and twist it, and you turn it upside down, then you see, it says it's like this world is like the map of, it's like an upside down rabbit with a bay leaf in the corner. Now, when someone who hasn't studied very well reads this, they may assume that these sadhus who've written this are very primitive people. They don't understand really what they're writing, or they've imagined something and written it. But then when you look very closely, there is this very nice book, it's called the Bhugola Tattva. And when you look at that, it's actually so nicely and accurately shown in pictures how this world is the upside down form of a rabbit. And on top of that, this bay leaf is actually where Australia sits. But it has to be drawn in a particular way so that it can be seen by the naked eye. So in this way, many descriptions written in the Vedas start to become obscure because language changes, understanding changes. The examples given in the Vedas sometimes don't make sense to our mind because we live in a different society. So you will see that especially Vyas, he expanded the knowledge of the Vedas, and first came the Vedanta Sutras. Sutra means a thread, and if you see how a thread is made, a thread is a combination of many strings which are put together. That's called a thread. But as soon as you unravel the thread, many strings are there, right? If you take a normal string and unravel it, it's a combination of many smaller strings. So the point of a sutra is to say many things within just a short burst of a sentence. And then you've got the Upanishads. Anishad means to hear, sunna. And Upa means very closely. So when you hear information from very close, for example, all of you are sitting here, and those people who have a good memory, good attention span, and good absorption power, if someone asks you later, what was the Bhagavad Gita on? What was the morning class about? You may be able to repeat quite a few things. So that which was heard very closely and then has been repeated. So so Vedanta Sutras were the commentaries, and the Upanishads were information about the Vedas but expanded upon. And then we come across Puranas, which were written by Vyas. Vyasadeva wrote the Puranas as a natural commentary to the Vedas, but including, you can say, factual stories and histories. That's why they're called Purana. Purana has different meanings. Puran means that which is old, or it comes from the word Purna, that which is complete. So a complete analysis of the subject matter which Ved-Vyas wanted to present. So a history and also a factual history as well, or a complete analysis of what he wanted to present. So there's 18 Puranas, and those have been split into, geared towards those people in Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva. Sometimes as devotees we question, if bhakti is the highest thing, why didn't Krishna just comment only on bhakti? If you look at Christianity, if you look at Islam, they're quite clear in what they want to say. God is the most powerful, God is the most merciful, just worship Him. So why did the Vedas speak of so many things, like in the Rig Veda, in the Atharva Veda? There's actually Gyan Kan, Karma Kan, and Upasana Kan. There's different sections. So why didn't Krishna just come down here or speak through all these different munis, rishis, give them knowledge and just say bhakti is everything? And the reason is because from our perspective as devotees, we're only concerned with bhakti. Or let's hope we're only concerned with bhakti. But from Krishna's perspective, his vision is so much more broad than ours. I'll give you an example. Right now, if anyone of us was told, can you become the president for one day? Or you can become the king of this country for one day or 1 month, what would you do? And as devotees, the first thing we'd say is, we'd ban meat in the country, we'd ban alcohol in the country, we'd kill all the brothels in the country, right? Because we have our very individual and narrow, almost narrow perspective. But then what are you going to do about treasury? What are you going to do about imports? What are you going to do about the currency? Isn't it? So you have to run a country, you have to have such broad intelligence. In the same way that Krishna is writing for the benefit of all mankind, so sometimes he has to write on a very simple level, or a level with which other people can appreciate and understand. And so therefore he introduces sub-religious texts. So they don't address param dharma, they address what is called naimitik dharma. There are two types of dharmas, naimitik dharma and nitya dharma. Naimitik dharma is duties that we have to do because we live in the world, temporarily. So for example, having a shower. Having a shower is not going to make you spiritual, but it's a duty that we should all do. It cleans you. For example, greeting people affectionately. One time Srila Prabhupada was walking on the road with so many of his disciples, and there was another gentleman who was passing. And as they passed each other, Srila Prabhupada said to him, "Good morning." And the gentleman said, "Good morning," and he smiled. Now, the devotees asked Srila Prabhupada, "Prabhupada, how come you didn't say Hare Krishna to him and make him chant the holy name?" And Srila Prabhupada explained there that even the fact that he smiles and says good morning, because if you say Hare Krishna to someone who has no context, the first thing that he might do to you is say, how he might respond is, like, in a little bit of a, like, you guys are very cultish people, that you're forcing me to say something. Just like right now, right? If someone came to us and said to us, Yali Madat. They came to us and greeted us and said, Yali Madat, may Ali help you. We might look at them and say, hello. We're not necessarily going to say Yali Madat because that's not our background, that's not our culture. But good morning is general. But what Srila Prabhupada got out of that person by smiling and saying good morning was a favorable response to a sadhu. And that was important. That's what Srila Prabhupada explained. So in the same way that the Lord is very broad-minded, He's not only writing for devotees. As devotees, we may only be concerned with devotional texts. But from the Supreme Lord's perspective, He is concerned about the whole of humanity. And so He writes for different people at different levels. One person's level might be different, another person's level might be different. Even on spiritual levels, even in spiritual life, there is Kanishta Adhikari, there's Madhyam Adhikari, there's Uttam Adhikari. One time, there was a sadhu in Kadam Kandi, in Vrindavan. There is an area called Kadam Kandi. And it's one of the, when you go there, you almost feel like this is some reflection of what the original Vrindavan must have been like. Beautiful kadamba and tamal trees. And it's one of the few places where you see a kadamba and tamal tree like literally like wrapped around each other, right? And for रसिक people, जो लोग रसिक है, उसका दर्शन करके उसको वही लगेगा कि ये राधा और कृष्ण है, right? So there was the sadhu of that place was called one prominent sadhu who did bhajan there about 300 years ago was called Nagari Das Baba. So one time during Nagari Das Baba's time, there was a Bhagavad Katha. And Nagari Das Baba had darshan of the Lord directly. This is how exalted he was. But he was also an avadut. He could do Mangal Arti in Mathura. He would then run to another city, mystically, which was in what would take 1 hour by car, he could do almost at the speed of a car or even less. He would get to another place by the morning darshan by 7 o'clock. Then he would be at another place and then he would be back to his bhajan place by 10 o'clock in the morning, having visited like 4 or 5 places. Very adbhut, mystical sadhu. So, Nagari Das Baba was once invited to a Bhagavad Katha. And the system of Bhagavad Katha normally, especially when you're doing a sapta, is that for the first 4 days you cover all the other cantos, and day 5, 6 and 7 you enter the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So at the beginning of the Bhagavad Katha, they invited Nagari Das Babaji, Kripya, please come and attend the Bhagavad Katha. So Nagari Das Baba said, okay. But for 4 days he didn't come. So they were wondering that is there something wrong with the Bhagavad Katha that we're doing? So they went to Nagari Das Baba and they said, Baba, it's been 4 days you haven't come, but we've entered the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam now. At least now come. So Nagari Das Baba said, okay. You know, Vaishnavas are requesting me so much, I'll come. So Nagari Das Baba came and attended that Bhagavad Katha. And at one point, it was the description of Dhenukasur and how Krishna and Balaram, in order to get fruits, they were taking the hooves of all Dhenuka and all his friends and they were whirling them around and they were throwing them into the trees. And they were getting smashed. And then the fruits would come and the cowherd boys were getting really happy, like, oh my God, there's so much fruit we're going to be able to eat. Can you imagine, right? All these donkey demons are there and you're more concerned about, I wonder how much fruit we're going to get from this donkey. So, Krishna, Balaram, even Subal and some of the cowherd boys, even they started. First it was just Krishna and Balaram taking all the donkeys and whirling them and throwing them into the trees. And eventually because all the cowherd boys have the same power as Krishna, but they're not concerned about it, but if needed, they'll use it. So they also started in on the act. Subal was taking a few donkeys and then whirling them. You know, it was a game. So suddenly, just at that description, Nagari Das Baba stood up and he left the Katha and he went back to his bhajan study. So after the Katha, the organizers, the main speaker, they went to Nagari Das Baba and they said that, Baba, did we say anything wrong? That you just suddenly, because he almost left in a huff. Have we said anything wrong? Nagari Das Baba wouldn't say anything. He was so grave. And they said, Baba, please tell us if we've said something wrong, just tell us. And Nagari Das Baba said, just one response, that the same hand which combs the hair of Srimati Radharani, and you're describing that hand to be holding the feet of donkeys, I didn't like that. वही हाथ जो श्रीमती राधा रानी का केश को इतने अच्छी तरह से संवारते हैं, और आप ऐसे कहते हैं, you're saying that that same hand is touching the feet of donkeys. It's disgusting. Now the point is that the Bhagavad is the Bhagavad. It's the description of the Bhagavad. But Nagari Das Baba was so elevated in his particular bhav that he couldn't in his mind reconcile. For us, we're not pure enough to see things in that way personally. But if we're broad and if we're intelligent, we'll understand where both parties are coming from. So not everything is for everybody. In the Mahabharata, it's actually mentioned that this scripture is for politicians, kings, sudras, and women. What does that mean? Does it mean that this is for the less intelligent people? Not necessarily. Sometimes Shastra seems to marginalize women, but it doesn't do so in the way that we think. The Mahabharata is actually a scripture because it comes with so many things. But because Krishna has been put in the Mahabharata in different places, those people who like politics, those people who like if you made the Mahabharata and made it into like a massive Hollywood production, so many people would watch it. Because there's war, there's politics, there's issues, there's almost a very beautiful woman being, her clothes are being taken off. These are things to entertain people. But in the midst of all of that, dharma comes in. If you read the Bhishma Stuti from the Mahabharata perspective, general dharma has been given. Like Bhishma Dev has spoken instructions to Yudhishthira in the Mahabharata which are practical. Like he said to him, in your kingdom, you should always make sure that your servants are paid more than the average wage if you want your kingdom to be happy. This is a practical instruction. However, in the Bhishma Stuti in the Srimad Bhagavatam, all these practical instructions are not given because it's concerned with only the bhakti instructions given by Bhishma Dev. However, in the Bhagavatam, it says, along with these instructions, many other instructions were given by Bhishma to Yudhishthira. But it only highlighted those verses where Bhishma was saying that, do you see this person standing in front of you, who looks ordinary, who looks like your cousin, right? He's not here out of affection for you. He's here because of his affection for me. So it's concentrated on those things. So in this way, the Vedas have written for different classes of people. Imagine calling someone for a feast and cutting raw carrots, boiling some karela, having a salad, and having a detox juice as the feast. Now the truth is that that's actually the best food for you. Srila Prabhupada even someone asked that are we supposed to offer like all this ghee, sweets, sabji, fried, samosa, pakoda, bhajia to Krishna every single day? And Srila Prabhupada said yes. For you, actually raw vegetables is actually the best for people, but we cannot offer that to Krishna. Because he's the Lord. In Braj, in the Radharaman temple, they don't even offer roti because it's considered that chapati is like a low-class food. Puri, it has to be fried, it has to puff, it has to look big. Isn't it? Rajaprabhu sahi baat hai na? Roti is gawar log ke liye hai. It's for people who don't have so much money. But puri is for the king. So they treat Radharamanji like a king. The best of foods is given. But you can't eat that type of food every day. Therefore, when you come into Iskcon, the first thing that Iskcon is very good at is feeding you similar food to what they feed the deities. Iskcon bullets, puri, sabji, all those things. So your body becomes saturated with all these heavy foods and you don't have time to think about so many other things. You just, even after the feast, you're relishing, what an amazing feast. But if you eat like that for the rest of your life, you might make it till the age of 50, if you're lucky. Right? On a general basis, for humans, it's important to eat vegetables, right? To eat more simple food on a daily basis. Once in a while, on an occasion, a feast is okay. Right? That's why so many devotees, they came into the movement eating all these heavy, rich, amazing foods, but eventually their health started getting compromised at a certain age. Dinabandhu Prabhu speaks of stories of devotees going to prison to do preaching, and then they said, let's take halwa for all the devotees, and they made all this halwa to take to the prison. Strawberry caramel flavored halwa, which was at the back of the truck. And then on the way, the smell was entering the nostrils of every single person. And then, there was, what was the name of the devotee? It wasn't Jayananda Prabhu. Maybe it was Jayananda Prabhu. And he said, he goes, look, if we all have just one bowl each, the prisoners have one bowl. So they had one bowl. Then Jayananda Prabhu again, if we have one more bowl, right, the prisoners won't get any less, right? Right? And they said yes. And then the third round, and the fourth round, and the fifth round. By the time they got to the prison, the entire buckets of halwa had been completely malizad by all the devotees. And the guards, the security guards said, what are you here for? Or they said, we're just, doing some goodwill, spiritual things for the prisoners. They said, no food is allowed. They said, yes, we know no food is allowed. So Jayananda Prabhu knew from the very beginning that no food was allowed in the prison, but he told everyone, let's make buckets of halwa for the devotees. And as soon as that halwa got in the car, the plan from the beginning was to finish that halwa. Now the point is, when you're young, you can eat like that. But when you're older, you really have to watch, isn't it? Right? When you're in your 20s, even if someone gave you, nails coated with a bit of paneer in it, you'd eat it, and you would be able to digest it. But as soon as you enter your 30s and your 40s and your 50s, everything starts slowing down, so you really have to think about it. So if someone invited you to the feast and says, here is carrots, which are very good for your eyes, here is salad, which is really good for your digestion and to feel light in the stomach, and here is karela, which will help your sugar levels. Who is going to enjoy such a feast? Oh, and here's some detox juice to help you, in the morning, when you need to evacuate, this will be the best for you. Will anyone enjoy such a feast? No. So in the same way, the Vedas have not just concentrated on the highest aspects of bhakti. They've given something, they've given karma kand. And therefore, that's why we have to see that there is a gradual development of that system. Just like we heard yesterday, Angira said the same thing to Chitraketu Maharaj, that I came to give you spiritual instructions, but you weren't ready, you were so desperate for a son. So I actually gave you a vidhi to have a son, but at the same time he said that you will have happiness and then eventually you'll have problems. But because you were so happy you were so desperate for that son, you said it doesn't matter. There are two types of thinkers. Krishna mentions this in the Bhagavad Gita. There are two types of thinkers. There is a long-term thinker and a short-term thinker. The short-term thinker will say, it's better if I eat it now, whatever I regret later on I'll regret, but at least abhi to mil raha hai. And the long-term thinker will think it doesn't matter if I have to suffer a little bit right now, but at least there is longevity in the process which I'm doing, and that longevity will make me happy. And therefore, devotees are encouraged to think like the latter. Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, I can't remember the exact Sanskrit shloka, or I can't quote the exact section, but he said that there's two ways. One is the easy way in the beginning, but later on, there is difficulty. And the other way is that there's difficulty in the beginning, but then later on, it's very nice. So bhakti is also a little bit like that. That bhakti is, in the beginning, you have to apply yourself like any process. In this world, if you want to achieve anything of substance, you have to apply yourself in the beginning, isn't it? Right? Ask any business person who starts their own business, how many hours did you have to put in? How much anxiety did you have to go through? How much effort did you have to go through? How many sleepless nights did you have to go through? And only then, after working so many hours, after sacrificing time with your family, after sacrificing meals, after sacrificing food, sometimes forgetting to eat lunch, not being able to eat properly, working till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, only then does a successful business emerge from there. In the same way, okay, bhakti isn't exactly the same, so it's not a perfect example, but because bhakti is anand in the process also if we apply ourselves. But you have to keep applying yourself. Sometimes you don't want to wake up in the morning, right? And you've got crust in your eyes, and you wake up and you're like, if only I could sleep 1 or 2 more hours, right? But you push yourself because you think that the work which I put in now, the Lord will recognize the effort, the Guru will recognize, my Guru will recognize my effort, and therefore I will get mercy. And then later, as time goes on, bhakti becomes easier. So coming to this shlok, Srila Prabhupada says that the Acharya, the spiritual master who teaches the Vedic knowledge and gives instructions by offering the sacred thread, is the personification of the Vedas. Because the Vedas are there to fulfill your desires. So in the same way, when a sadhu or a muni is asked to come and initiate a yajna, it's for the purpose of fulfilling your desires. So therefore, he is the personification of the Vedas, because jitni vastu humko chahiye, whatever we want in our life, we can get through offerings, through yajna. And then he said, similarly, a father personifies Lord Brahma. Why? Because Brahma is the creator. And in the same way, the father is also the creator. Brahma has given so many facilities for the living entity. And so the father also gives us facilities in the form of a house, car, transport, food, all these things, right? Then he says, a brother, King Indra. Because like Indra protects the demigods, a brother will protect you. A brother may fight with you, right? A brother may argue with you, but if anyone touches you, if anyone outside touches you, the first person to protect you will not even be the father, it will be the brother. The brother has this condition that only I can hit you, nobody else. A mother, the planet Earth. The earth produces so many things. The mother produces so many things. Right? I have a relationship with my mother. Sometimes I ask her, can I have this? It can be something random. Do you have an electronic toothbrush? And she'll look at me and say, what do you think I am? A supermarket. But then she'll go and get it. Right? So just like the earth produces so many different varieties. When you're hot, there's trees, it can give you shade. You want different types of vegetables, you can get it. Whatever you desire, if you go to your mother and say that I want this, a mother will somehow has the facility to be able to give it to you. So that's why a mother is planet Earth, and a sister is mercy. Right? A sister is always favorably disposed towards her brother. And a guest personifies religious principles. Because as soon as a guest comes, the first thing you have, how big you are. You can be, the richest person in the world, but there's no time. So there's two types of atithis. Those who come randomly and those who come at a specified time. But anybody who comes to your house, you have to look after them. You have to worship them. So a guest, Atithi, personifies religious principles because no matter what, you have to become humble. To serve a guest, you can't be arrogant. If a guest comes to your house and you say, listen, I'm busy for the next hour, just sit here. That's not what you do. In the same way, the Lord is served with humility, a guest is served with humility. And humility is the deepest religious principle. And an invited guest personifies the demigod Agni. Because Agni is, you're offering so many things to Agni in sacrifice. So when a guest comes, Idam Vishnave Namaha, Idam Namama, right? Idam Vishnave Namaha. I offer myself, I bow down, this belongs to Vishnu, Idam Namama. This doesn't belong to me, it belongs to Vishnu. Right? Indraya Swaha, I'm offering to Indra. This belongs to Indra, Idam Namama. The word Idam Namama is constantly repeated. So when a guest comes, you're doing the same thing. You're not chanting shlokas, but you're giving to the guest. This doesn't belong to me, this belongs to you. If you have a box of chocolates which you bought for your family these days, it was for your family. You thought, I have these lovely Cadbury's chocolates and they're for the family. But you take them and you give them to the guest instead. Huh? Idam chocolateaya nama, idam nama. You know, give it to the guest. And then it says, all living entities personify Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of God. Because remember that the heart, this world is simply a reflection of the condition of one's heart. You don't see this world as it is. Nobody sees this world as it is except Bhagavan. Neil Prabhu, Omkar Prabhu are sitting here, because I have duality in my heart, therefore I can think, I like Omkar Prabhu, but I don't like Neil Prabhu, because yesterday he did this to me. That's my duality, and I've just looked at this world in my own way. Sometimes, you could be sitting in a resort, an amazing, beautiful hotel, and next to you is a person from your family, but because you got one phone call which disturbed you, the whole world looks disturbed. You're sitting next to a swimming pool, the breeze is amazing, the weather is amazing, right? But you're sitting there in anxiety. Because your heart is disturbed, the world is disturbed. So you can't see any beauty. And the person sitting next to you, he's fine. He's saying, what a place, right? Kya jagah hai? Yeah, look at this swimming pool, it's the best swimming pool I've seen. Look at this breeze, it's the most amazing breeze. Oh, I'm so relaxed. He's sleeping your intention. You're in the same place, but the world is different. And in the Bhagavatam Gita, the same thing has been mentioned to Gopakumar. Then don't think that this world is anything but a reflection of simply what goes on in the heart. If you're envious, you will see every single person in a negative twist. And if you have the Supreme Lord residing in your heart, you will see the Supreme Lord sitting in every single person. It just depends what we have in our heart, literally. And it applies even on the higher principle, Jagi Rahi Bhavana Jaisi, Raghu Murat Dekhi Tinatesi. That whatever you have in your heart, you will see. When Krishna entered the arena of Kans, right? What did everyone see? Every single person saw something different. Kans saw that death has come. Because there was death in his heart. He wanted to kill Krishna, so when Krishna came, he saw death. The wrestlers saw a mountain, the biggest of mountains, like दो पहाड़ जैसे कोई व्यक्ति आए in the arena. Two massive mountains came because they were restless and they were thinking we will thump them. But because you're dealing with Krishna, you see something, you see a different reality. Krishna will become whoever you need him to be, but he will be the biggest, deadliest, loveliest, most beautiful, the biggest version, the most amplified version of whatever is in your heart. Krishna can become that. You have fear, he'll become death. You have wrestling, he'll become a mountainous wrestler. You have love, he will become the most lovely person. So this is jagi rahi bhavana jaisi tumhari bhavana hai, whatever is in your heart. Raghu, Lord Ram, Raghu Murat dekhi tin tesi. If you have some issues in your heart, then you will see Lord Ram also with those issues. So here it says all living entities personify Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Lord. So you can think how? Because when I look at him, I think of he's a Kenyan. And when I think of him, I think he's a British arrogant person. And this is a Kenyan humble person. And this is an Indian businessman who's greedy. And so we have so many divisions. And that's because our heart is in those divided dualities and divisionalities. So one time, getting into the Mool Katha, that one time Indra disrespected Brihaspati. Indra was sitting on his throne and there were so many people worshipping him. And at that time, his guru, who was the guru of the demigods, Brihaspati, entered the arena. And because Brihaspati saw that Indra didn't get up to respect me, he realized that Indra has become arrogant. Now, the question is Indra arrogant every day? Not necessarily, but sometimes what happens is somebody gets into a situation where when they are worshipped so much, at that time their arrogance heightens. Imagine someone became very famous, just overnight. You know, these days it's not difficult to become famous, especially if you're good at social media, right? You just put a few good social media posts up and suddenly, 1,000 likes, 2,000 likes, 3,000 likes, very easy. It's cheap fame, right? Because you haven't really worked for it. So you become famous. Now imagine you go into a place where you're famous. I've seen this. Somebody enters Vrindavan because they're popular in devotional circles, and suddenly everyone wants to take a photo with them. Oh Prabhu, Mataji, can I take a photo with you? Ek selfie ho jaye? And then they start. And then there's a line of people waiting so that they can take a selfie with you. And at that point, if you're not purified or you don't understand what's going on, you're not in the mood of service. If at that point someone says, hey Prabhu, come, you'll think, who are you to tell me to come to you? Can't you see I'm in the middle of my fame here? Right? Who are you? Or a sannyasi passes by, but you're busy, because the rule is when a sannyasi passes, you're supposed to offer your obeisances. Recognize whether he's elevated or not, or whatever. Point is, he's taken sannyas, which you haven't taken. So offer your obeisances and recognize them. Even a Mayavadi sannyasi, you should offer your obeisances. Because from a Varnashram point of view, he's higher than you. But if in the middle of that, you're being told, you're being said, Prabhu, can we take a selfie? You're interested, and just that time a sannyasi passes by, and you're like, I don't need to offer him obeisances, I'm in the middle of my thing right now. So sometimes that arrogance can increase. So Indra was being worshipped, his opulence had grown, his money had grown, his fame had grown, so many things were happening, he was on his throne conducting everything, and Brihaspati walked in, his guru. What he should have done was gotten up from his seat, placed Brihaspati like every noble, humble person does, washed his feet and done the proper etiquette. He didn't do that. And so Brihaspati left, but he didn't leave on his own. He left feeling very upset with Indra. And as soon as he became displeased with Indra, suddenly Indra started losing his opulence, his power, his prestige, everything. And Srila Prabhupada says in this purport that if a guru is pleased, anything can be achieved. Faith in this is very powerful. Mukham karoti vachalam. Panghum. Panghum means somebody langda, somebody who's, broken. Their leg is broken, right? Broken body part. Panghum langhayate girin. He can actually even jump over a mountain. Giri ka matlab hai mountain. Langhayate means to jump over, to cross over. Agar yat kripa tamaham bande Shri Guru Dinatari. So if we have faith in Guru, if we have love and respect for Guru, then what can a Guru not enable the disciple to do? Obviously, ultimate Guru is Paramananda Madhava, Sri Krishna also. Krishna says, you should see me also in the form of Guru. So, Srila Prabhupada, if you look at what his speciality was, every devotee has a speciality, something that sticks out. Some devotees may have 1,000 things which stick out, some people 3, but you'll always find one thing which sticks out in every devotee. One good, great quality which we may not have. But Srila Prabhupada had implicit faith in the instruction of his Guru. And he said this, I don't have any good qualities. We all know he had many. But Srila Prabhupada said, I have no good qualities in me. But the one thing I have is faith in the instruction of my Guru. And that was Bhakti Siddhanta. So when you look at it from a material perspective, Srila Prabhupada shouldn't have been successful. 69 years old, right? Who wants to know old people these days? Yeah, let's be honest. If you're young, you've got energy, you've got beauty, you've got prowess, you've got ability, you've got money, people want you. But as soon as you start becoming old, then eventually people start forgetting you. How many times do we think, you know what, there's this old person sitting alone in her house, let me go and see her and spend some time with her. You'd rather go and see your friend. So Srila Prabhupada shouldn't technically have been successful because how much energy do you have at the age of 70? Money. You need money to do anything. That's the first thing we worry about. As soon as someone says, let's do a retreat, paisa kahan se aayega? Let's go for a trip, where will the money come from? Let's buy this, where will the money come from? So you need money. How much did Srila Prabhupada have? $4 equivalent? What was it, 12 rupees, 4 rupees? Right? Point is, it was loose change which Srila Prabhupada went with. So he shouldn't have been successful. Did he know anybody? No. His father knew somebody knew his father, he had now moved to America, and he was living with a white person. And it's not that that person said, come, I'll do everything for you. He just said, come and live with me until you figure yourself out. So Srila Prabhupada stayed with them for a while. He shouldn't have been successful on that front. Was there any resource that Srila Prabhupada had at his disposal? No. Nothing. Not a single person came and said, come to America, we'll help you out. There was no invitation. Every other guru yogi, the plans are made from before. Come, we've got a big beautiful house, we'll arrange for people to come and listen to your lectures, your food will be arranged, everything will be arranged for you. Srila Prabhupada literally walked into almost like a desert. There was no arrangement. And even Srila Prabhupada says, I was just loitering on the streets of your country for a whole year. Do you know Srila Prabhupada would go to the petrol station to take a bath? Koi kar sakta hai? When I say koi, can ordinary people do this? But because he had faith, then look what happened. After just a short time, and people don't know this, but Srila Prabhupada saw Krishna not once. Prabhakar, I think it was Acharya Prabhakar, He mentioned about how Srila Prabhupada saw Krishna. But you know, Krishna also came and told Srila Prabhupada when he was on the Jaladuta, I've come to take you. And Srila Prabhupada said, no, I've got the mission of my Guru to fulfill. Please, just let me go for some time. And when Srila Prabhupada first had his heart attack, after being in New York for some time, and I think then he was flown to another destination, I can't remember which one, to recuperate and rest. But when he had his heart attack, Krishna said, I've come to take you. Let's go. And Srila Prabhupada said, I just started this movement. Because then he was really attracting a lot of people. He was seeing that my Guru is sending so many disciples, so many people to surrender. So he said, this is just started. If I leave now, what will happen? And you know what Krishna said to him? He said, okay, go on with your nonsense. And Bhagavan Shri Krishna left. So Srila Prabhupada shouldn't have succeeded, but his Guru's blessings were there. And then when you don't have Guru's blessings, so imagine what Guru's blessings can do to somebody. And when you lose that blessing, when the Guru is so dissatisfied with you, then you start losing everything. And when everything was lost, then they went to another Guru. They went to Brahma. Because Brihaspati, first they tried to look for Brihaspati everywhere. Where did he go? Brihaspati was nowhere to be found. Because he was so dissatisfied with Indra's behavior. The one thing that a Guru can tolerate so many things, but as soon as he sees an arrogant disciple, that really turns the Guru's mercy button off. So then they all went to Brahma and they said, what do we do? What do we do? Please, Bhai Imam, help us. And Brahma said that there is the son of Tvasta Muni, his name is Vishwarupa. He's got all the qualities that you need. Since you can't find Brihaspati, approach him and he will help you to regain your lost opulence. Because as soon as the demigods start to lose their opulence, the first thing they do is they are the Suras, and then you've got the Asuras, who are mainly led by the sons of Aditi. So as soon as that happens, Aditi's children, which means the Asuras come and they attack and they say, right, this place belongs to us now, get out. And so when they lose their opulence, they go to Brahma, and he said, if you go to Vishwarup, he will be able to reinstate you, he'll help you. Now Vishwarup was relatively much younger. He was like a young priest. But they went to him and they said, Vishwarup, they went to Tvasta Muni, and Tvasta Muni said, yes, Vishwarup will help you. Vishwarup was less in age. Ayu mein bahut kam the, right? However, it's mentioned here that because his knowledge was greater, and especially in Yajna and Vedic knowledge, they accepted him. They accepted his authority. And Srila Prabhupada comments over here that you have to look at someone in two ways. There is superiority in terms of age, but there is superiority in terms of knowledge as well. So, I might be 40 years old, but if I see a 22-year-old who's more knowledgeable than me, I should accept him as in the position of like a guru. Because knowledge actually makes one superior. It's mentioned in quite a few places in the Bhagavatam. So the demigods accepted him. So this system of senior and junior is meant to be followed in every single situation except when it comes to Vedic knowledge. Vedic knowledge, you don't look at someone's age, you look at someone's knowledge. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Kiba Vipra, Kiba Nyasi, Sudra Kene Nai, Say Krishna Te Tattva with Say Guru. So you don't look at someone in terms of their position, their Varnashram position when it comes to Vedic knowledge. Say Krishna Tattva Ved, say Guru Word. As soon as somebody understands the science about Krishna Bhakti, say Guru Word. It doesn't mean they're a Diksha Guru. It means that you are to learn something from them. Anybody who you learn from is Guru. So from Tvasta Muni, Vishwarup had composed the Narayan Kavach. If you see in the 6th canto, there is the whole Om Hari Vidyadhan, Mama Sarva Rakshi, Patangri, all those verses. That is the Narayan Kavach, which was composed by Vishwarup for the benefit of Indra. So he taught this Kavach, because the Kavach isn't just supposed to be spoken, you're supposed to touch certain places, purify yourself, make a shield of yourself, because this mantra is so powerful that if you don't protect yourself, somebody could actually come and take all your powers that you've assimilated from this. So you have to make like a field. There's a pura vidhi hai, there's a system. And so Vishwarup made the Narayan Kavach, and then he started teaching this Kavach to Indra, to make him powerful. There are two types of people. There's the Suras and then the Asuras. Suras accept Vishnu to be the Supreme Lord. Asurs are not people who don't believe in anybody. It's just that they worship Durga, they worship Shiva, they worship other people. That's the prime difference between the Suras and the Asuras. So this Narayan Kavach was spoken. And Vishwarup, it's mentioned, had 3 heads. One head would drink som. One head would drink another type of beverage which has been translated as wine. But it's not actually wine in the sense that, he orders like a type of red wine and, says, all right, let me have this, $20 per bottle, $300 per bottle, give me this. It's another type of wine which is allowed by priests to consume. And by his third mouth, third head, he would consume food. So while these yajnas were going on with Indra and Vishwarup to regain power, because Vishwarup's grandmother was an Asur, and Vishwarup he had love for both the sons of Aditi and the sons of Diti as well, because he was from both families. So while Indra was giving him, while they were doing these Vedic mantras and doing offerings, that this is for the demigods, this is for the power of the demigods, this is to increase the power of the demigods when you're doing the yajna, idam namama, right? This is for this person. With another head, in a very low voice, he would do the same for the Asurs as well, that this is also for the Asurs, because he didn't want them also to be disadvantaged, because he had some drishti, right? Some people are like that. Like if you look at Krishna, Arjun went to Krishna and he said, will you be my charioteer? And Duryodhana went to Balaram and he said, will you fight on our side? And Balaram said, I don't believe in the fighting of all these cousins. So Balaram left and went on a Tirthyatra. He said, both of you are relatives and I have love for both of you. So Balaram was son. So in the same way, Vishwarup was son. But as soon as he found out that Vishwarup with a very low voice was offering to the Asurs, Indra found out after some time. And as soon as he found out, he took his thunderbolt and he cut Vishwarup's 3 heads off. Not just the one that was making the offerings, but all 3 heads he completely chopped off and he killed him. And as soon as that happened, he did it in anger. He did it in impulse. Like as soon as he found out you're offering to the demigods, cut. As soon as that happened, now this is quite interesting how sin enters into one's body. Because sometimes we commit a sinful activity and we think, but how is it going to affect us? So what happens is all the elements of your body actually become sinful. So it's mentioned here by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that first, out of 5 elements, the only element that can't actually take on any sin is ether. But fire in his body became sinful, the water became sinful, the earth became sinful, and the air, the pran in his body became sinful. And still, his antakaran, right, his inner consciousness also became sinful as well. But in a very subtle way, which even Indra didn't understand. So all these externally his elements became sinful, but deeper than that, because he cut the head of a Brahman, the 3 heads of a Brahman, his antakaran became sinful to the point where later on we will see he even killed Vritrasura, because his antakaran was contaminated. If his antakaran, his inner consciousness was not contaminated, he wouldn't have killed Vritrasura. And so for a long time, Indra was suffering because all of this was contaminated. And then only 4 types of people, or 4 different personifications approached Indra to take on the sin. They said, you're the king of heaven, you shouldn't share this burden alone. You were doing this for the benefit of the demigods. So let's share in your sin. We will take this. So the first people to approach Indra was women. So you know how I was saying earlier that sometimes it seems that women are inferior in Shastra. But there's a way to read that. But in many ways, women are superior. Bhakti is female. Jnana and Vairagya are male, but Bhakti is female. So women approached Indra and said, give us 25% of your pap, of your sin. So Indra said, for taking 25%, I'll give you a boon. So by taking that sinful activity on, women become contaminated, it's mentioned, for 3 to 4 days in a month. But in return, Indra said that I will allow you sensual enjoyment unlimitedly. You won't get satiated from sensual enjoyment. Men can get satiated. After some time, men become quickly enamored and then quickly satiated. Women are not so satiated quickly. They have the potential to be unsatiated. Then Earth came. Earth came and said, we will